Hi, and welcome to the Sales RX podcast. We provide actionable insights for revenue professionals looking to find the right prescription in their sales process. So let's jump right in. Hello, and welcome to all my Sales RXers and first-time listeners to the Sales RX podcast. I'm your host and your sales doctor, Chet Lovegren, and I'm really excited for today's episode because we're going to take a deep dive into social selling via LinkedIn and video and how our guest today uses that in his approach in selling. Today, I have with me the founder and sales trainer of Digital Sales Sync, Jonathan Otero. Jonathan, welcome to the Sales RX podcast.
What's going on, Chet? It's good to be on with you. You know, I follow you on TikTok. I see all your videos. So it's really cool to be sharing the mic with you right now.
Yeah, I love it. And I was really excited. I know we've done a couple stitches and duets back and forth. Jonathan's got some very humorous content as well as some very insightful content on TikTok. So if you're not on TikTok, you should check him out, and we'll do a plug at the end of the show so we all know where to find you and where to locate you. Jonathan talked a little bit about the context. Why is Jonathan here today? Well, you know, Jonathan's got experience in the game. He's a digital sales trainer and coach. He runs his own company. He's really adapted to this new work from home world where we have to cut through a lot of noise and use social channels to sell. Tell us a little bit about your background in those 14 years in tech sales, moving through those different verticals. Tell us a story, Jonathan. Let us know who you are.
So, basically I started, in New York, like you said in the intro. I was, being originally from New York, I started selling B2B door-to-door cable modems. And I started working for the cable provider over there in Long Island, New York. I don't know if you could tell by the accent, but you're going to know in a couple of minutes here that I'm from there. Can't lose that accent. And I just started that way. And gradually over time, I started moving up in sales in terms of selling into the C-suite, eventually getting into the enterprise level. And then when my wife and I decided to move to Orlando, Florida, where I'm speaking to you from now, if you could see the palm trees in the back of the window there,
yeah,
I made sure that when I bought a house, it had to have palm trees attached to it. So those are them right there.
Yeah.
And so, I started selling enterprise and started selling to the C-suite. And then I took what I learned in New York and applied it to this new market that I was in, and eventually just got better and better at selling from that perspective. But then in 2020, when we all had to face, COVID and everything hit with that, I lost the ability to meet face to face. And that was my sizzle. That was where I was a rock star at. I'll never forget 2 days before everything shut down, I was sitting in the office of the CIO for a large law firm. And we had just agreed to a deal. He even told me, send me the paperwork, because I had to make a couple revisions on it based on what I had already in the DocuSign. But he's like, once you make those revisions, it's done. Just shoot me the paperwork. I'll sign it. And 2 days later, everything shut down, and he had to put that deal on hold because it was, economic uncertainty at that point. Mm-hmm. That deal was going to net like, 6 figures, and it was going to be, that one deal alone was going to kind of make the year. So it was really frustrating, right? And but what was more frustrating was now I remember everyone trying to figure out, all leadership and all these people trying to figure out how to lead with empathy, all those keywords, those buzzwords that we used to hear in sales. Do this, do that, send them a virtual coffee lunch meeting maker. And it was just like all this crazy stuff. Nobody knew what to do. And that's when I realized, I sat down and I said, you know what, I'm going to have to change this up. I know that there was a lot of folks like you being very successful using video and on LinkedIn and using social media to engage. So I decided to learn how to leverage that. And then once I kind of got good at that, video was the tool that was able to help me put me back in the executive boardroom. It was able to put me back in front of that buyer, that decision maker that I needed to get to, so they can see my personality, they could see who I was, and they can it could be relatable, it could be more human versus just a generic email. And I can show you, I could lead with empathy because you could actually see me on the screen. You could hear the inflections in my voice. You could hear the enthusiasm. You could hear the excitement, or you could hear me be down and being, hey, hopefully everything's okay type of deal. But the point was, it made me more human. It helped me cut through all the different noise that you saw from all the different sales reps that not only I was competing against, but even folks in my own organization. And once I learned how to leverage that, that's what kind of got me to where I was. Now, here's the key of it all. At the end of 2020, the company I was working for had a massive layoff, and I was one of those people that got let go. And first time in my career that ever happened, and that sucked. And the thing that was interesting was I was getting phone calls from other sales reps that were at that company and that were also in other companies, my peers, saying, hey, I'm sorry about this. I know it sucks, but you think you could help me? And so I was like, yeah, all right. Being a nice guy. Yeah, sure. And I would spend an hour, with these people and just giving them advice. And I got off the phone one time and I look at my wife and I'm like, I think people get paid a lot of money to do this.
Yeah.
So I reached out to a lot of sales trainers that I knew. I never thought about sales training, never thought that my career would lead to that. And they were giving me advice and what to do and how to set things up. And so in December of 2020, a couple of weeks after I got let go, I started my own sales training company. And now I teach those same folks that are struggling with how to engage on LinkedIn and how to use video to communicate, teach them exactly what I do and what I know and how it worked for me, and then help them get some results. So that's kind of how it all started and kind of the journey of how we got to where we are today. And then I met you on TikTok.
Yeah.
And we started doing things together. And now here we are on the podcast. So go figure how it all works out.
It's amazing how it all comes together. And I love that story about your wife and how, she's like, you look over her, you're like, I think people get paid for doing this, right? And if you're like me, your wife probably hears like 90% of your conversations you have with people, right? Because sometimes we're roaming around the house, we're on the phone. And that's actually incredibly similar to the career coaching that I do, because a lot of the old SDRs that I used to coach when they were interviewing for AE jobs, the last company after I left, as well as just some other folks I've run into in the past, they would call me a lot like, hey, how do I negotiate a higher salary? Or what should I say since I've never been an AE before? And after a while, my wife actually made a joke at one point about one of the reps. And she was like, hey, are you gonna at least take my husband out to dinner sometime for all the advice he's given you? And I said, well, I'm pretty sure this is like people could actually pay for my time. Like if I'm actually giving them good advice. And then I saw enough traction there that I was like, yeah, let's start like making this a thing that I do. And I actually have my time open for 10 people a month that I work with on a regular basis. And so I love hearing that story of how be working from home, right? In this new normal, in this COVID era, the interaction between husband and wife and the encouragement there and the realization of like, hey, another path that I can take and something that I can do. And more importantly, a difference I can make in people's lives. Cause just there's probably tons of people listening right now that still are like, how the hell do I sell with LinkedIn? Like I've never gotten an appointment from LinkedIn. I've never had somebody respond to a video email. Now I could give them tips all day long. You could probably give them tips all day long. But the other thing is the enactment of it, right? It's such a hard thing to do, to stay on a regular cadence of, putting in the effort, right? So that kind of brings me to something I want to hear from you, right? This whole world changes. You start leveraging LinkedIn, social selling, video, all that. What was one of the biggest challenges you had when it came to doing that, right? And getting started? Was it keeping strong when those results didn't initially pan in? Was it just getting started and knowing what to do? What was that initial challenge and how did you solve for that?
Yeah, well, so when we talk about using video, right? When I decided that I was going to go hard on LinkedIn and like Vidyard, tools like that to use, to leverage video platforms, the hardest part was figuring out how to make a video that was engaging enough, right? Like I would turn on that camera, the countdown would go 3, 2, 1. I'd start sweating, I'd mess up, I'd start all over again. I had to change my shirt because the sweat from the armpits was coming out. And I was just like, this sucks, man. And it would take me, 20 minutes to shoot a 1-minute video. And then the video would never get viewed or they wouldn't reply. So I'm like, this sucks. I'm not doing this really wrong. But I knew that there was something there because I heard enough of it and I knew that it was something different. And that's been kind of my whole career. I try to be a little bit different to try to separate myself. And I knew that there was something there. I just had to figure it out. So that was the hardest part. And then the part of using LinkedIn to start building my own brand, the Jonathan Otero brand, you're dealing with imposter syndrome, right? Because in the very beginning, you don't know if it's going to work. You don't know if you're doing the right thing. You're putting yourself out there. So people in your own company are watching you. Some are cheering for you. Some are quiet, and some are like, talking behind your back. Like, what is this guy doing? This is not, you got to be careful, right? We've all heard the stories of people who say something wrong or do something wrong. And, next thing you know, they're getting let go from their job because they're not representing the company the right way. So, there was a lot of that going on, and I was nervous. I was facing this new world all by myself. No one was giving me guidance. Certainly no one in my company knew how to do it, because if they did, they would have been training us to do it, and they weren't. So it was a scary time. And I had to figure out how to get over the imposter syndrome. And I had to also figure out through A/B split testing and trial and error, what was the best type of video to send to a prospect. So I got the result that I wanted, which was engagement and an appointment, and I was okay with the no. I'll take the no all day, Chet. You know this, right? Being in sales,
Yeah.
I give me the
You
no.
gotta go
Say
for
no
no.
to me. Thank you for saying no. At least I know where you stand. I
Yeah.
want the yes, but I'll take the no. It was the not knowing and the no responses that was killing me, because I still had my quota coming in, right? Everyone was saying lead with empathy. Chet, can someone give me empathy? I had a quota and I wasn't able to meet with anyone, right? We were going through COVID. It was tough.
Yeah.
I had to put food on the table, and I'm putting up zeros on the board because no one's buying. And so can someone be empathetic to my situation, right? So there was a lot of that going on, and I struggled with that for a while, but luckily through time we were able to progress and get to where we need to be.
Yeah. And I think if you look back at a lot of companies historically, probably more companies than willing to admit did have some sort of quota relief during the first couple months. Cause I was in supply chain when that hit. I was selling supply chain software. So we were okay. I mean, supply chain has been going, that industry's been booming. But I definitely know that there are a lot of people where it's like, I didn't make a sale for 3 months, but I didn't get put on a PIP, but that's just,
right.
I was selling office equipment and business furniture. Like, what was I going to do? It wasn't until companies started going, hey, let's open up our stipend and start sending people, work from home furniture. Like, let's get people money for chairs and things like that, or even supply them chairs. But yeah,
I'll never forget the first deal I got after COVID hit, which was probably it was like July. So we go all of March, April, May, June, 4 months without a sale. And then July hits and I get my first deal. And it was something small. It was like a little, one site type of deal, needed fiber internet at one location. And it was a small deal, right? And it felt like $1 million. It felt like the first time I made a sale, because I was like, yes, we got a deal. I even made a video of it. One of those TikTok videos where I'm singing to my wife the Golden Girls theme song. And I was super excited, right? And I remember that feeling, and that was the excitement, and the fun had come back into sales at that point. But yeah, it was a tough time.
Yeah, it's cool though how you not only sought out resources on like, okay, like what's an engaging video? How do I make a video engaging? I'm sure you were, doing a lot of research, trying to find resources, but also that you were able to overcome something which is very real, which is the imposter syndrome that you hit on. And that's always something that I'm curious about when it comes to imposter syndrome, because people get it a lot, especially like with our SDR to AE program, that we run with the Sales RX community. A lot of the SDRs that we coach, they're like, okay, but I've never done, pipeline management. I've never forecasted. I've never had to negotiate. Okay, those are things you can learn. You know what I mean? Everybody was an AE once for the first time. Like it's the same thing you're doing as an SDR. You're just, same thing, different suit, essentially. What is one key piece of advice you could give to someone that's going through some sort of imposter syndrome, whether it's, hey, I'm going out on my own, with my entrepreneurial spirit, or I'm going from SCR to AE for the first time, or, hey, I'm going from like an individual contributor to a first-time manager role. What piece of advice would you give to someone that's going through imposter syndrome?
Well, so the way I described that in my situation was, I know that I had to admit that I was going to suck at first. And that's the key. Like, for example, I started thinking about like, if someone wrote a song, that song wasn't beautiful. The first draft of that song probably sucked really bad. If you're
Yeah.
coming up with a guitar riff, if you play music and you play instruments and you're trying to figure out a song, you ever see like the process of a band kind of forming a song, like
Mhm.
a song that we still listen to today, and you kind
Yeah.
of hear the dry run of it, and it just sounds like they have a piece of it, but not all of it. It
Yeah.
sucks. It sounds
Yeah.
bad, right?
Yeah,
But
really
that
bad.
bad riff ends up being, like Metallica Into the Sandman that you listen to for the rest of your life, right? And so I realized that that was the process that I had to go through. I had to suck before I got, where I was and where I wanted to be.
Mhm.
And so that was one step. And then the second step was once you own that, once you accept that you're not going to be, we have this image of where we want to be, but that's not who you are today, but you're still out there doing the action. Once you do it enough and you start to get results, that imposter syndrome goes right out the window, right? Because now you have proof, but it takes you having to do the work to having to get there and go through the bad drafts and the bad riffs and the bad verses in order for you to get to where you want to be. But once you have those results are going to cure everything. It's like in sales, right? Every sale, what's the expression that we say in sales? Sales will cure a bad day. Go get a sale and that'll cure everything. Sales cures all, whatever the acronym, whatever they want to say. It's the same thing with imposter syndrome. You go get that result and you get that one person saying, hey, cool video. Yes, let's set up an appointment. Or you get that you're prospecting on LinkedIn and you get that person to say, yeah, this sounds pretty cool. Send me more information. Man, all of a sudden you're flying high and you're like, oh, this is
Yeah.
okay, good. And that imposter syndrome goes right out the window. So the best thing I could say to someone that's struggling with, should I do this? Should I not do this? What's going to be the reaction? I'm facing this, I feel like I'm not who I want to be, this imposter syndrome, is just to realize that you're going to suck. It's okay to suck, right? You're trying something new for the first time. You should be bad at it,
Yeah.
but you're learning as you go, you get better at it. And then eventually, once you have the results, you're going to, it's going to fade away. The first day that you did your job, the first day, Chet, that you became a sales manager, right? I bet you were not, you were terrible at it day one,
Yeah.
but you were way better at it at the end of the year when you had a year under your belt, or a
Mhm.
couple months after that, even, you got better at it as you went along. When I was first slinging cable modems in the streets of Brooklyn, New York and Long Island, New York, I was terrible at sales. I was terrible at that. I didn't know how to, I didn't know how to do that, but you get better and better. You become President's Club, you start, having success. You get major confidence, this massive confidence, and then you start moving up. And every step of the way, when you start something new, you're always going to be, that you're always going to have that imposter syndrome. But the minute that you get those results, man, you get massive confidence. And that's the best way to get over it.
Yeah, I agree. And you're completely right. When my first manager job, like official manager job, when I was managing SDRs in my last company, it was like, it felt like really buttoned up and micromanaging and all this
Mhm.
stuff, like what I thought a manager should be, hey, we're going
Right.
to take things really serious, this, that, the other. And then I was struggling after a couple months, in terms of just, we were still hitting quota. I just didn't feel good about where we were,
Mhm.
with the team. I felt like everybody felt tired and overworked. My wife goes, well, like, just, be your authentic self, was a thing she kept
Mhm.
telling me. Just be
Right.
yourself, and very comical, very humorous. Don't try to take everything so seriously all the time. And so I started getting really light and humorous with things, and
Mhm.
kind
Mhm.
of pulling things back a little bit. And then that was when the team started opening up more. And then they were like, hey, can we meet up in LA for like a team happy hour or something like that? Even with
Mhm.
COVID, we were like, okay, we can go
Right.
outdoors somewhere or something like that. People started getting more comfortable with one another. And now I take that into my job now, where I think there's like a good balance of being serious, but also letting people know, like, I'm kind of a silly guy.
Right.
I love
Right.
comedy. I mean, you see, probably need to get back to posting more insightful content on TikTok, but a lot of the stuff I've been posting lately is just like funny stuff. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Right.
It's humor,
Right.
it's engagement, because
Mhm.
that's really my niche. That's what I really like. I love the humor and I love the lightheartedness of it. Sales is too hard for us to be so serious all the time. We got to have a
That's
little bit of
right.
lighthearted fun. Other people, they do great with the serious thing. That's who they are, and they're very instructional and straightforward and direct, and that's the way they are things, and that's their authentic self, and that's where they
Right.
best operate. But you totally hit the nail on the head. Like, I was really bad. I was trying to be something that I wasn't. I was, not sticking true to my authentic self, or
Mhm.
really even just realizing that, hey, you're not going to be perfect at this in your first 3 months. You're going to have to
Mhm.
learn a lot, just make
Mhm.
sure your people don't suffer because you have to still learn things. Do the best you
Right,
can by
right,
them.
right.
Obviously I don't want you to give away any of the secret sauce, because you train people professionally on how to sell via LinkedIn and video.
Mhm.
So we're not going to ask for your secret sauce, but what I would love to hear from you is, when you're operating on LinkedIn to either, generate some awareness or interest, or even, reach out to people via cold outreach on LinkedIn, do some social selling, what are like a couple things you could recommend people not do? Right. I'm not asking you to tell the secret sauce and how you make it and what people should do. Right. That's what
Mhm.
people pay you for. But give us some insights on the flip side of that. What are some things people should stay away from when they're doing LinkedIn messaging? What are some LinkedIn faux pas that we tend to run into?
Well, I think the thing that is obvious is people, when they start to engage on LinkedIn, they forget that it's a social media platform, right? We
Mhm.
know it as the business platform, but it's still a social media. You have to be social,
Yeah.
right? And when they first engage, they're immediately starting to sell.
Mm,
And that's what your profile does for you. Your profile should sell yourself, right? You shouldn't have to sell when you're making a connection request. So I get it all the time too. My having my title say founder and lead trainer, I get solicitations every day on LinkedIn.
yeah.
And they're always, I don't know who this person is. You haven't added any value to me yet. I have no idea if your product or service can help what I'm trying to accomplish or the people that I serve. So it's like, why would I even want to engage with you, right? I go check your profile. I don't even want to check your profile if you're immediately trying to sell me right off the bat, like on an in-mail or connection request. They forget that there's a social component. It is the equivalent of, say I met my wife, and this is the only kind of comparison I can make. But say I didn't know my wife and I saw her at a bar, and man, I look at her and I'm like, wow, she's really cute. And I go right up to her and I say, hey, give me your phone number. She's like, what? Like, who are you, jerk? Get the heck out of here! Like, you sleazy type of dude.
Yeah.
Well, that's what you're doing on LinkedIn
Mhm.
when you make a connection request and you start selling and you start pitching. It's the equivalent of just going up to somebody at a bar and saying, can I have your number?
Mhm.
And it doesn't work, right? There's a social component of it. So instead of trying to connect and just go right in for the sell and right in for the pitch, it's more like, hey, should we connect? Then perhaps you can leverage my network. I'm giving you something. I'm trying to add value to you in making the connection, especially if
Yeah.
I'm reaching out to connect with you. So,
Mhm.
hey, it seems like you and I, Chet, have a lot of things similar in common, whatever that may be, right? Whether we have connections that we share, or whether you're a founder and a trainer as well, or whatever it is. After I checked out your profile, we went to the same college, whatever. Once I find what that connection is, hey, seems like we have this mutual in common. Should we connect? That's the key. Should we connect? Because I'm leaving it up to you, Chet. Should we connect? Feel free to leverage my network of your peers. And that's it. Now, once they connect and engage with me, maybe I go on, I engage with some of their content. People love it when you get followers, right? That's the thing, right? On social media, who's following me? So follow them. Click like on some of their posts, comment on some of their content, maybe even, reshare it, if you feel like it's valuable to your network. And people are going to notice that and you say, huh, wow, this is really cool. I have this follower. And then once you've engaged with their content, you've added some value to them, then you've earned the right to at least ask the question if we can have a meeting. I'm still not selling, right? I don't want to sell anything. I just now I've earned the right because I've engaged with your content. I've added some value to you. Maybe I've even sent you some stuff. Hey, saw your last post. Notice that you said ... Here's an article I read about, TikTok. And so I'm adding value to you. And then
Yeah.
once I've done that, then now I can ask for the appointment. And then once you ask for the appointment and you take it from there, you could do that with a video. There's all these different ways. But I think the key is that people in sales, we want instant gratification because you know what? We got quota to hit. And I
Yeah.
get that, right? We got to, the end of the month, we're in the 15th today, right? February 15th. In a couple more days, that dashboard goes back to zero. And it's like, what have you done for me lately? And you have to, I get that you want to do that, but you have to understand that if you're going to go into a social selling, a digital selling world, it is the long game. It is not the short game. If you want to get a quick hit, then leveraging social media, LinkedIn, and all that stuff is just not for you. You're going to ruin it. And that's the biggest problem. A lot of folks, they say, oh, well, let me try social media. They get in, they mess it up. And then when they get a bad name for sales reps, they try it for a week or two, it doesn't work. And now they're like, I'm giving up on this. This sucks. So for me, it's the best advice I can give. And I think that the key is to understand that this is the long game. First, add value to the person that you're trying to connect with. And then once you've engaged with them and you've added some value, then you've earned the right to ask for the next step. Does that make sense?
Yes. And I'm going to applaud you there, because you hit on something that I'm huge on is I hate when people go do it once and then like read a book, do it once, and then try to sell people on why they should hire them to do it. That's why I love that. Like, you've taken 14 years of experience, and that's what you're getting when you work with Jonathan, right? You're getting 14 years of experience. You're getting someone who went through COVID and adapted. It's not like, hey, I was an account executive for 8 months. Now I'm going to go start my own company where I teach people how to do sales development. You know what I'm saying? And that's what happens and that's what ruins it for people that actually have, because I'm sure just like I get when I talk to people about career coaching, you probably get the same thing when you're talking to people about sales training. It's like, oh, okay, isn't everybody a sales trainer now? Like, there's so many consultants and sales trainers, coaches, this, that, the other, because everybody read a book about how to do it or bought a course on how to do it and then went and tried to do it, without actually getting in the trenches and having management experience or teaching people how to be AEs that were SDRs, or teaching people how to adapt to this new world of selling or how to social sell and things of that nature. So I love that you kind of put it this way. A lot of people will go and do it for a week and they don't get any results. And now there's a bunch of awfully timed and terribly strategized cold outreaches out on LinkedIn that give salespeople a bad name. Right. And like you said, it's not a quick hit. It's a long game. That's why I always tell people, when you're social selling, that needs to be a layer on top of the things that are quick, like cold calling. Most people just cold call because it is the quickest way, right? I cold call, you tell me yes or you tell me no. I at least try to get a future follow-up out of you. If I can't get the yes right now, blah, blah, blah. But then they forget to do the social media side of it because it's not instant gratification. We have SDRs at Pavilion that'll send a video message and get a response in an hour, and then they book a meeting. But we also have a lot of people where they come back and I looked at them during one-on-one. I go, wow, you booked 4 appointments last week. Yeah. 2 of them were this person I've been talking to since December. I've sent them probably 8 video messages, a couple LinkedIn touches in addition to my cold calls, but just staying in front of them, kept sending them interesting content. We'd release a strategy guide. I'd send that over to them, and the appointment, like you said, I've earned the right now at this point. Like, I've deposited enough information, enough resources and value for you to either tell me yes or no. And hopefully it's the yes, because you've gotten value out of it. So I love your take on that. The social media side, it's not quick gratification. It's delayed gratification. It's a long game, but it's a vital game as well, because think about it. If you don't have those extra 4 to 5 appointments a month from social selling, you're going to have to go make X amount more cold calls. And we know people love making cold calls these days, right?
Well, and what else too? Our buyers, especially, I'm on the enterprise side dealing with a lot of enterprise AEs. Those buyers, especially at the C-level, they're more savvy than ever before, right? They're not, a lot of times they already know what they want before they even get to the sales rep. So it's almost like you're not teaching them anything new. So you better have some sort of presence online that they can look to and provide some sort of content online that they can see and say, okay, this person potentially could add value to me. Let me now engage with them, because otherwise, they're way light years ahead of what they were back in the day. So that's why I obviously cold calling, I know, still works. A lot of people tell me, do I think cold calling is dead? The answer is no. But man, it's on life support, because, they're the picking up the phone and leaving a voicemail, or getting someone on the phone and getting them to book an appointment right then and there, or sending them a generic email. Those days are not gone, but they're back in the day. And the savvy buyer now wants to engage with someone that can level them up and help them look good at their job. So the first thing they're going to do is they're going to go online and check you out. And if you just have a plain Jane vanilla profile, then they're just gonna, all right, you're just another guy or another girl. But if you're showing them where you can add value and you're providing content, you're adding value to them, that's going to make you stand out more. But again, like you said, it takes time.
Yeah, 100%. And actually what's really interesting is even though cold calling it's still relevant, it's tough depending on the industry you're in, the market you're selling to. But what's really interesting in making a comeback is actually direct mail, because I learned from Josh Roth over at Lob that legally your company has to send you mail that gets mailed to the HQ within 2 weeks. So even if you're working from home, if you send direct mail to somebody's company, they're probably going to get it, which I didn't know. And I thought it was really cool. I was like, oh, really? So now we're trying to actually look at like, what would like a drip campaign look like at the beginning of the funnel if we like just, LinkedIn connection request, direct mail, and a timed email 2 days later, so they have time to receive all those things before we start interacting, like a pre-sales campaign almost.
Pretty cool. That's awesome.
But yeah, so direct mail, ironically, making a comeback.
That's a way better plan than
mail
FaceTiming.
Yeah, they call it FaceTiming. Oh Lord, that's for another day. I know we're coming up on time here, but I did want to kind of get some final thoughts and some advice from you for anyone listening that's not adapting to a new way of selling. Maybe they need that reality check, or maybe they have adapted, but they're not seeing any results. What kind of advice would you give to someone that needs to start leveraging social selling through LinkedIn and video?
I would say, you have to, there's a process like we talked about earlier that you have to go through, but you have to understand that because our world has changed, you need to change as well. So whether you like it or not, selling socially and becoming a digital seller has to be a part of your arsenal when you go out the door to try to sell. And the problem is that we don't have enough folks in organizations, corporate America, that can train to do stuff like that, because you know what? They just don't know either, right? You can't have someone who is at a senior level in sales coming in and teaching you how to do digital sales, because just they don't know how to do it. They haven't done it. They haven't been in those shoes. So we don't have enough yet. It's not, I guess the word is mainstream enough yet. People know that it's there. People know that people are successful with it, but they just don't know how to leverage it themselves or how to make it their own. The other thing is that I would say is you have to understand that when you're going out the door to be a social seller and you're in sales and you're trying to now engage, you have to remember that you're building your own personal brand. You're not building the brand of your organization. And there's multiple reasons for that, right? But they've already gotten their brand built. They have a budget that you would never be able to compare to millions of dollars of budget. So don't try to peddle or sell their stuff just yet. Worry about building your own personal brand first. And what do I mean by that is you have to start putting your own personality out there on social media. It's nice that you post something about your company, but again, from a social perspective, I don't know you well enough yet to care. So you have to understand that, right? So marketing will come out with all these marketing pieces, and they're great. I love people who are in marketing. So whoever's watching this in marketing, this is not a slight on you, but just know that people in marketing are there to promote their organization, your organization, right? But people who you're selling to don't care enough yet about your organization. So instead of trying to just, take something that marketing put out there and repurpose it and pray to God that someone calls you because you write in that post, check this link out, call me for more information. You're not going to get engagement that way. People buy from other people, not from brands. So be yourself on social media. I know that LinkedIn's the big business platform. So post business related stuff, but sprinkle in those social components about yourself. Not make it a Facebook and, post yourself up on the beach hanging out in shorts. No, but there's certain aspects of you I want to get to know. So tell me about your children. Tell me about something that happened in your life, a life-changing event. Talk to me about the day that I got fired, November 20th, 2020, was a life-changing event. I talk about that. I put myself out there. I'm not afraid to. I put that out there on LinkedIn. Is it embarrassing? Sure, it was embarrassing the day I got let go. It sucked. I'll never forget that day in my life. It was terrible. But I put it out there because you know what? Maybe someone else out there is going through the same thing, or maybe they just got fired or they experienced that too. They can relate to you, and that person is your buyer, right? And now you've made a connection and you don't even realize it by building your own personal brand and putting yourself out there so people now can get to know who you are. Then once they care about you, then they're like, oh yeah, what is it that you sell, by the way? And now you can bring in your organization at that point, right? So that's the key. You have to understand that mentality. You're building your own brand. Here's the last thing I'll say, Chet, because I know that we're coming up on time. When at the end of the day, if God forbid something was to happen to you, like what happened to me when I got let go, or if you ever decide to leave your company, that brand stays with them. Whatever brand you're building, if you're building your company's brand, that stays at your company.
Yeah.
But you can take, if you've built your own brand, you can take that with you wherever you go. And that's going to be more valuable. So but you have to start building the brand today, right? So you have to think that way. You have to have that mentality, start to build your own personal brand by doing that on social and putting yourself out there. And if you can do that over time, you're going to reap those rewards. So that's the best advice I could give. Hopefully people take that. But if you don't take that, sucks to be you. But I would tell you that, if you take that advice, Chet's doing that, I'm doing that. There's a lot of people that we follow that we're connected to as well that do that. And no matter where those people go, I'm sure I can tell you, I'll speak for myself, I will follow them wherever they go because I've bought into their brand. I don't even care what the name on their back is.
Yep. 100%. Same thing in sports, right? I'm a Cam Newton fan. I wasn't a Panthers fan. I was a Cam Newton fan. So even though, I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan as my team, I love Cam Newton, right? So Cam Newton went to the Patriots. I hate the Patriots, right? And everybody that's listening can hate me for that. That's okay. I'm one of the Patriot haters. Right. But I love Cam Newton. I liked watching him play there because even though he had some really bad times there, it was still like, okay, cool. Cam Newton's in a new jersey. Like I love watching Cam Newton. He's one of the players I like to watch. Giancarlo Stanton, same thing, right? Played for the Marlins. Then the Yankees gained a bunch of fans when he started playing for the Yankees because people like to watch Giancarlo Stanton. Like he's fun to watch. It's probably the same thing for all my LA people. Whenever Mike Trout leaves the Angels, there's gonna have a bunch of fans that follow him to whatever team he goes to because he's exciting to watch too.
So I the first thing you said, Chet, that I can't agree with you because I'm a Met fan. I hate the Yankees, and I'm a Jet fan. I hate the Patriots. I guarantee you, if Joe Namath started peddling some, Patriot stuff, I will be very upset.
You're not going to be having a good day.
I will not have a good day if I ever see Joe Namath in a Patriot jersey. So no, I get what you're saying. I understand what you were trying to say, but this is something that runs really deep with me.
This
Old
is
school
war.
New York stuff.
This is war. I will not move. Well, hey, I love that we were able to talk about this today. I think it's a really pivotal thing that we're all still trying to figure out to some extent, right? And the more insights we can spread and the more information that people can get and hear how people are doing, what to do, what not to do, what their challenges are, I think it's really valuable to the community. And I appreciate you taking some time out of your day to let us know your thoughts and what's working for you and your story.
Sure.
Tell people where can they find you, where can they interact and engage with you? Plug your LinkedIn. What if I want to work with Jonathan? How do I get in touch with them?
Yeah, you can just find me, Jonathan S. Otero on LinkedIn. You can do Jonathan Otero, Ask Otero /Ask Otero there on LinkedIn. You can find me on TikTok at Digital Sales Sync. That's my handle on TikTok. And, Chet will tell you if you follow him, you can find me there through his followers. I'm a big fan of his as well. And you can find me there for some sales humor. And like he said, also every now and then we'll sprinkle in some content that you can use. I'll probably be duetting one of his stuff probably coming up in the next couple of days here and make some fun, make some fun times with it. And then also you can also visit our, we have a private Facebook group that we've created just for sales professionals where we give out a lot of our information. It's highqualityappointments.com. And there is where I give out a lot of tips and tricks and we go into detail. I don't want to put that stuff out there on LinkedIn or anywhere else because some of my buyers follow me on those channels. So, but in that Facebook group, you'll get we'll go really in depth of how to shoot a video, the cadence of a video, how to engage on LinkedIn, all the stuff we kind of talked about today on the podcast. So highqualityappointments.com, type that into your URL, become a member of the group and we can see each other there.
Awesome. I love it. That's all for us today. If you're interested in more insights, you can join the Sales RX community and podcast on LinkedIn. You can also check us out on TikTok. And if you're an SDR looking to become an AE within the next 12 months, whether you're already a few months in or whether you recently got passed up on a promotion and hit your 1-year timeline, be sure to check out the waitlist for our SDR to AE program that is available for all SDRs that are looking to be promoted to AE. That's all we have for you today. Thanks for taking some time to listen to the Sales RX podcast, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks, Jonathan.
Awesome. Take care, guys.